Welcome to the next part of the course where we're going to set up our view models, all of our state management stuff, at least on the Android side. And we're also going to set up HILT because HILT just makes using the Android architecture components view model way easier. So this video in particular, I'm not going to do any coding. This is just strictly going to be me talking. And I'm going to talk about why I decided to use the Android architecture components view model, the classic, Android view model that we all know and we all use, or most of us do. Why I chose to use that as opposed to, trying to share a view model with the iOS and the Android side of the world. So this is just me talking. I'm going to talk through why I think it is not practical to share a view model, at least as of today. Today is May 12th, 2021. And just to kind of clarify things for you, I do think that Android architecture components view model is on its way out. We're definitely heading in the direction of sharing a view model in a multi-platform way. I just think that practically it's not quite there yet. So if you don't care about me and my explanation of why we're using this Android view model, you can just skip to the next video. The next video is actually going to be me talking about why I decided to use HILT and not coin or manual dependency injection. So if you don't care about that, you can skip that video too. If you only care about the code, you don't want to hear about the explanation, then skip these videos. But if you want to hear the reason why I don't think we should be sharing a view model yet, which is pretty valuable information, I think, then stick around and listen. First, I just want to say that technically it is possible. Like you could write a view model and share it, but there's just a number of things, a number of, quote unquote hacky things that you need to do that to me make it not worth it. It just makes it too much work to go down that path. And if you want to actually see a great example of somebody who has been trying to do this, he says he's been trying to do this for the last year with the Kotlin multi-platform, how to share a view model, how to take it to the next frontier, share a view model between your Android client, your iOS client. Check out this DKMP sample by Daniel Barancelli. I think he does a great job. This is the best job that I've seen of anybody try to share a view model so far. And he addresses all the issues that I talk about in this video. And I've actually had extensive conversations with him because his first sample had a bunch of flaws basically, and we talked about it. I basically argued to him that these flaws exist and they matter, but he's addressed them since, and it looks great so far. But in my opinion, still not worth it because it's more work than it's worth when you just get so much out of the Android view model. So anyway, let's start talking about why I don't think it's practical. Okay, so the first thing you need to address if you're going to share a view model between Android and iOS is you need a way for Jetpack Compose and Swift UI to both react to some kind of observable data structure. So in Jetpack Compose we have like mutable state. If that mutable state object changes, the composable recomposes and shows those updates. With Swift UI, you have something called an observable object. It has published fields inside of that observable object. Same deal. If you observe those things, those fields or that observable object in your UI and it changes, Swift UI says, oh, hey, look, this thing changed. I need to update. So currently there's no data structure that will both Jetpack Compose can recognize and Swift UI can recognize and say, oh, look, this thing changed. Let me update my UI. So the first thing you need to address is that. For the DKMP sample that I mentioned with Daniel Barancelli, he solves this problem by keeping a counter inside of the state class, where he's maintaining state. And when that state changes, he increments the counter and a flow will emit that new state. And both Swift UI and Jetpack Compose are able to see when a new flow is emitted. So it's like, oh, hey, look, the counter was incremented. I better update my state. So that's how he handles it. So it can definitely be done for sure. It's just, something that you have to do. The second thing is instances. So if you suppose you're navigating through Instagram, for example, you're browsing the feed, you click on somebody's profile, you're looking at their profile. So let's call that profile number one. And that is a class of profile A. The class is profile A, but the instance is profile one. Then you go to the comments, you maybe click on somebody else's profile. That means you're creating a new instance of profile A, the class called profile A. We'll call it profile number 2. So now you have two instances of the same class in the backstack. You need a way to maintain the state of each one of those. So you will have, say a view state in each one of those classes, you need a way to maintain that state and differentiate between the two. So that means you need a mechanism that will, save the state of those. In the DKMP sample, he does that by, this is actually what we talked about when I mentioned these kind of shortcomings to him. He saves a unique ID in a map, and then that saves the state of that particular screen. So when you pop the backstack, it will clear the state. Pop it again, you'll be looking at that same one, even though it's a duplicate instance or a different instance of that same screen. So you need a mechanism to handle that. And then the last kind of thing is what happens when you pop the backstack. I kind of already gave away the answer. When you're saving the state, you have a unique some kind of a unique key to identify that state for that particular instance. An easy way to do this would be to, for every backstack entry, have a unique ID for that backstack entry. And then, when that gets popped off the backstack, you just use that ID and say, okay, clear the state. So those are the three kind of big things that you need to do. And those are not trivial, I don't think. You add a lot of complexity to your project by implementing all of those things, by yourself as the developer. And if you use the Android Architecture Components view model, you get all of that for free. Like every single thing that I just mentioned, although other than the data structure that can be observed in Jetpack Compose and Swift UI, you have to still use like the framework specific data structures for that. But you just do that because you have a view model for each framework, so it just works out. So everything I said about the state management, clearing the state, keeping the backstack entries, multiple instances, all that stuff is just done automatically with the Android Architecture Components view model. And I don't know what the word or the classes are involved in Swift UI. It just kind of does it automatically. So if you navigate around, just kind of magically Swift UI does what it's supposed to. So if you use a platform specific view model, you don't have to worry about any of those complexities. So to me, like, the idea of sharing a view model sounds great. That's definitely like the direction I would want to go, but I don't want to implement all those things by myself. And, if this was a personal project that I was working on and I wasn't, teaching it at a course, maybe I would consider, taking a look at the DKMP sample and implementing his system, because it works. And I think that sharing a view model is great. I want to share as much code as possible, but in a course, I'm not going to teach people that because it's not a solidified practice yet. The Android Architecture Components view model just does it all. And so that's what we're going to go with. Next, we're going to talk about why we are going to be using Hilt for dependency injection. So basically, why I'm not using Coin, why I'm not using manual dependency injection, at least on the Android client. I guess another thing is like, why am I choosing to use platform specific dependency injection as opposed to having some kind of shared dependency injection solution. So I'll talk to you in the next video.